A very warm welcome back to GlobeTrotting. Airbus has been pressured at times by Emirates to build a new A380 model, but will it happen? After production ceased for the world's largest passenger plane at the end of 2021, does a place still exist for this kind of jet in the plane maker's production floor? Furthermore, what ideas have been thrown out, what is the best direction, and why hasn't a new version emerged? Well, the A380 was designed to revolutionize air travel, compete with Boeing, and mitigate the long drawn-out sales of the 747 model. By releasing an ultra-high capacity aircraft, Airbus hoped to see it develop airlines as international networks while responding to congestion at airports that were also facing restrictions on the handouts of all-important slots. However, Airbus's hopes for the program were arguably never fully realized, with Emirates really carrying this program. Ultimately, airlines would shift towards smaller and much more efficient twin-engine planes that could fly on more point-to-point routes, as we said goodbye to the iconic, but some would argue past it, hub-and-spoke model. The shift in strategy, coupled with the world's largest passenger plane's premise, resulted in weak sales away from the Dubai-based carrier, and certainly a slowed adoption. Additionally, the A380 was restricted to a limited number of airports. Due to its size, those airports that committed to the jet required extensive infrastructure modifications, but not all were willing to make this kind of investment a reality, which limited the amount it could fly into. Moreover, the rapid advancement of new-gen planes compounded issues for the A380, and yes, I'm looking at the 787, the A350 from Airbus themselves, and later the 777X. They've all provided long-haul capabilities, and while the latter is yet to be certified, on paper, it is going to certainly trump what we've seen with the A380, and is doing so without all those substantial associated risks. As a result, airlines seeking to develop or renew their fleet found these twin-engined aircraft to be more adaptable to their needs, and certainly a better long-term prospect. Despite its popularity among passengers, the A380 would ultimately suffer, and by 2021, Airbus ceased production after years of dwindling orders. But if Airbus was to build a new A380, why would it be and who would it be for? Well, talk of building a new A380 has always been primarily driven by not Airbus themselves, but their largest customer of the A380-800 in Emirates, who have expressed their hope to receive such a plane. Speaking with Business Insider, the airline's president Tim Clark earlier this year confirmed that Airbus should proceed with a new version, interestingly reaffirming his stance despite the model's poor sales performance, which did lead to its cancellation and even his order cancellations at the time. Clark confirmed that a new aircraft would actually be feasible thanks to lighter materials and more efficient engines. These improvements, among other things, may address the downsides highlighted with the Dash 800 model, but it doesn't guarantee widespread adoption. Improvements have also been visible in planes such as the A350 family. You're looking at, say, lightweight materials, making it cheaper for airlines to fly over older gen types that it was intended to replace, and Emirates felt that if Airbus adopted a similar outlook to the A350 for a new A380 version, well, more parties away from them would commit, but like I said, they're the only airline that's expressed firm interest. They've been so interested that they even said they put forward designs of their own to the European manufacturer to actually prove that building the proposed aircraft would work for them and is a viable option. Long-term suggestions have indicated that Clark's new model would be 25% more efficient than the predecessor Dash 800 variant, which relied on older generation technologies, limiting its performance metrics. Emirates reaffirmed that there is a case in which a new A380 model could work, and if they put forward some $20 billion, Airbus would probably build it for the airline. However, it's not as easy said as done for this prospective A380neo, as it has been dubbed. Much more goes into greenlighting a project, let alone for a lone customer. And the reality is, Emirates has continued to push for an updated version of the world's largest passenger plane. Whether it now is at the beginning of, say, 2025, it reaffirmed its stance, or even towards the latter stages of the 2010s, its viewpoint has certainly been the same, and maybe to a certain extent its urgency has grown, but Airbus firmly believes an A380neo is not a viable project. One of the main reasons for this decision is the immense financial and logistical challenge of restarting production. When Airbus discontinued the A380, it dismantled the entire manufacturing supply chain, and this included tooling, production jigs, and the specialized workforce required to build what was a very complex aircraft that it had got down pat. By closing the aircraft up, while its presence is going to continue existing with airlines, the A380's presence actually internally at Airbus isn't once what it used to be, and was a chapter now of a book that has closed, with new ones beginning. Re-establishing the production infrastructure would be very expensive, time-consuming, would require billions in investment, and would not by any means guarantee success. Furthermore, think of how big an Airbus A380 is, just how much space you need to have when there are bigger priorities. Despite Emirates' confirmation that they would commit to the program, would this be enough? And more importantly, would it affect the plane maker in the future? According to analysts, the likely answer remains yes, and those risks are not something it is prepared to take on with such a focus elsewhere. Beyond the production challenges, the demand for ultra-large aircraft remains weak. As the industry has evolved, most airlines prioritize flexibility and cost efficiency over, say, sheer capacity. Now, Emirates is in a camp where it disagrees with this. It argues that slot restrictions at airports are going to continue being a problem, and probably actually says it's going to get even worse, so you're going to need large aircraft to return. But now, according to Airbus, that doesn't exist in the capacity of a new A380 model. But it wasn't without trying. While no new A380 was formally launched, Airbus did announce the A380 Plus in 2017 as a bit of a development study for an upgraded version on the then still in production plane. The jet was released to showcase the benefits that updated technologies could provide to airlines that were seeking a high-capacity airliner, and to try and work out some of the maybe downsides to the Dash 800 model, which is why Airbus was finding airlines were not committing to it. Airbus wanted to change the narrative of the plane, which had struggled to attract interest. So therefore, how could the European plane maker make this a desirable series again? Well, Airbus proposed enhancements, including aerodynamic adjustments, increased passenger capacity, and weight reductions. As the most notable difference, if we're talking strictly appearance, would be the addition of winglets not previously found on the Dash 800 model. As described by Airbus, the winglets would provide up to 4% fuel burn savings and a 13% cost reduction per seat compared to the A380, with again that capacity increase. However, the Plus would never be launched, would never attract firm interest, especially not from Emirates, who are actually pretty vocal against this. They preferred their re-engine option. So why doesn't a new A380 make any sense? Well, for a lot of reasons, but redeveloping the world's largest passenger plane now in 2025 just doesn't work, despite Emirates being in its ear about the prospect of them purchasing a said new version. The manufacturer says it's focused on the highly successful program of the A350, which has become their now new long-haul flagship. The development of the Dash 1000 ULR and A350F showcases what the future is, and on top of that, they're investing in next-generation aircraft technology because they know their next commercial plane truly has to be game-changing, has to go up against Boeing, and needs to lead from the front as more and more plane makers have to really hit those sustainability targets in future decades. Other focal points on a smaller scale, you'd look towards the development of the A321neo program, with many derivatives such as the XLR coming to light and capturing the attentions of many airlines, showing what is possible on a smaller scale. Instead of, say, proceeding with an ultra-high capacity jet, Airbus is focusing on meeting what is currently present in demand and also environmental standards. Does that rule out an A380 or a new version, sometime in the future? No, we don't know what the next 10 to 15 years will hold, let alone the next 20 to 30, but no doubt it'll be in a different form, and it would have to have some pretty significant backing, and the reality is, a lot would have to change between now and then. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, take care, be safe, and I'll see you in a couple of days. And we'll fly.